Good evening everybody, welcome to the studio this evening, and time for some more of this leopard. What I'm just doing is just sharpening this point. That's a little bit longer than normal, or feels like it. And yes, it does. I'll just turn the volume down a little bit. Right, so it is now back to working on this side, lightening it up somewhat so that we've got an effect of obviously light across to dark. As I mentioned before, the changes being made are really rather subtle to make a change in the tone. It doesn't take much to make something look a lot brighter than it did. That came out of focus. So what I'm doing here is I'm studying my forecast window, and the reason for doing that is that I can see more apart from I can see what you guys are looking at. The other thing it allows me to do is to see the image as though I've just stood a long way back. What I'm just going to try and do is giving you guys a hat. There you go. So you don't get as much glare off the light here. I'm wondering if it's slightly out of focus, or if it's just an artifact of the resolution of the camera. Let me just play with the focus because it no, it is in focus. Although frankly, slightly out of focus looks slightly better to me. But that's the actual focus point there. Okay. I shall leave it as it is there. And I'm working with the glare as well. Makes it a little bit awkward because this is black, it's reflective even though it's matte, and I see the light reflection basically. I'm just looking at the areas that I need to do a little bit of work on. a little bit around here. I'm not greatly happy with the shaping that I'm seeing. And this here needs at least to be a little bit brighter, possibly more rim lit than it currently is. Okay, let's try. It's quite a. I need a sort of a slightly subtle difference in shade. This wants to be slightly darker than this area around here because, of course, it's the bridge of the nose and the eyebrow area or the eye socket. So it's the sort of equivalent of just here, where it kind of goes over the top of head. Over the top of the head, comes down vertical and then goes out to the muzzle. Right, yes, that's coming. I'm getting a bit brighter now. I need to make sure that even though I'm getting this brighter, I need to spread that out. Light can be fairly hard edged, but generally isn't. And unless this was specifically something like a torch, it would tend to be somewhat of a slightly more distributed light, even if it is directional. And I think sort of the story of this image is one of nighttime. It does strike me very much like a nighttime image, and that's not just because of the black background. I mean, that does tend to hint at being dark, of course. But it's kind of like if you were stood in a clearing in a forest and you've got a light above your head, if you like, so you can see around you, and this leopard is just padding into that light circle, so you're just seeing it quite close, really, I guess. But there's a lot of shadow from that light source. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get to here, I think. Sometimes like that, knowing the story behind the image does help you see how you want to develop the image. And sometimes there isn't, you just, it's just an image, you just like it. But if you've got like a setting in mind, for example, then that can help you understand how lighting might appear and other things. Which is kind of how I'm using it at the moment. That's my understanding of how this lighting it appears. So although I'm sort of considering it to be like a forest or a jungle perhaps, or well, I'm half thinking this is a snow leopard, so probably trees, forest of some kind, but you know, you're not seeing the background, it's too dark out there, so I'm not putting any background around this at all. Is that bright enough? Possibly for the moment. Let's see a little bit more about these ears around here. Now this ear itself is really dark inside, which is quite convenient. So what we've got to do though is, these are dots, so I'm I've done the ears here in a stippling technique because effectively the ears of a cat, and this is a cat, it's a big cat, somewhat dangerous cat, but it's a cat. The ears are almost like a velvet touch. Now I don't specifically know a leopard. I do know a tiger, the ears of a tiger cub, the ears are quite velvet feel. Because I've actually felt them. And on domestic cats they're velveting, so I'm assuming they're going to be the same. Well, effectively they're not velvet, they're little tiny short hairs. And looking at the reference images, for example, whilst they are little tiny short hairs, the easiest way to represent that is just with the stippling. If I'm trying to do a lot of very tiny small scratches, I basically wouldn't succeed in doing it at all, and it would have it would be really hard. This part of the ear just down here has been done that way. It took a lot of time to do that, but the stippling technique should be easier. Good evening, 3D bloke. Not at the moment, which reminds me. Well, let's see if he pops up in about the next. We've been broadcasting. Well, he should pop up in the next 15 minutes. That assumes we don't have anybody popping up to actually drive him to get involved in the conversation. Otherwise, all he'll do is pop up to remind people about the shop. And if you're asking what shop, apart from the fact I'm going to say, don't you read the screen? I am pointing at it, but anyway. The shop at the moment is just the jewellery items that I am able to make. I may well put some of the pyrography stuff into the shop or into my own website shop soon, but at the moment this, for example, needs to be when it's finished, needs to have a protective coating applied over the top of it before I would consider doing anything with it, whether selling it or whatever. So this isn't ready to be sold as such, unless somebody wants to buy it in advance, I guess. But no such need to be concerned with the jewellery. So that's up there already. So Free, are you sorry you gave up on Soma last night, but are you have you stripped the video cards out, or are you just going to make the decision to buy a new one and wait till it arrives? I so love Twitch. Thank you very much for following. That's very kind of you. That's kind of an appropriate name, I guess. I trust you do indeed love Twitch. Right, this little bit of ear here, and surprisingly it's common on, seemingly on cats. Well, it is on cats because I see it on quite a lot of them, but it also is on leopards, obviously, since it's on my reference pictures, which is why I've copied it. It's kind of like a little pocket of skin, and in the couple of references I'm looking at here, it's very black in there and at black edge, but I can't do black on black, so a bit of artistic license is to just outline the edge. It's a rim light. The light's sort of creeping around the edge. Yeah, I'm going to swap them out, but oh, okay. It's weird as to what was causing the problem. I was just wondering whether capturing your window in a different way might change it, because I seem to remember reading something about OBS, which obviously may apply to the other one as well, whose name has escaped my memory for the moment. But something about different window capture techniques. So whether you capture a screen region, or whether you capture the game window, or whether you capture the screen if you play it full screen. I know you've only got one, so you don't want to do that, but that can have a vastly different effect on the ability, frame rate wise, of the OBS to do the capture. Though quite why it's, if that's truly happening, it's affecting your card, I don't know. As you say, you didn't seem to be maxing out your card. Okay, just non-optimization then. Kind of surprised if it wasn't though, that you wouldn't be hammering the CPU a bit better. Yeah, the game is okay. If you tried them, then you obviously know. Yeah. Great pity that, because I know you're probably not going to play it again now until you get the new machine, but I was quite enjoying watching that. Yeah, I will be forever in suspense as to what happens next on Soma. You'll have to tell me once you've played it. I the last couple of times you've played it, I have a tendency, even when you're streaming your the pictures, painting, to have 2 or 3 streams open. I'll just generally chat in one like yours, or occasionally another one. But for both times when you've been playing that game, it's been full screen, and it's been the only, well, it's not been the only stream running, but the other streams actually have been behind the window, so I haven't been able to see them at all. So you had exclusive screen estate. Yeah, well, potentially I've got 3, but one's hidden behind the other. I've got a Cintiq desktop machine, which is my main monitor to the right of me, although I tend not to use it a great deal at the moment. So I use that one. It's a 26-inch and better than HD, so it's quite a nice monitor. But when it's upright, I can't see the monitor behind it, so I have to sort of tilt that down, and I just can't be bothered because I've got 3 then. It's kind of an L shape. But the big one's sat in front of the one behind. It's great when you're drawing because you can have a reference picture straight in front of you, and then you can draw on the screen in front of you. But yeah, I only have 2 otherwise. So I'm just laughing at what the cat's doing. Yeah, I even for work I normally use 2 HD monitors. I'm using a laptop, but unfortunately it won't run 3 screens, but it does run 2 HD screens. And it's about a week or so ago I had to go into the office, and I had to sit in a slightly different office, and I had to just use the laptop monitor. And it's an HD-ish, well, it's a widescreen, so it's not quite HD. Was it 1440 by 900 or something? And it was kind of like, going this tiny when you're used to the 1980s by 10 whatever it is, 1020s at least, with 2 of them. And you're getting just a single laptop. It's where do I put the window? Where's the window gone? Somebody's bringing one out, and it might be Amazon at about £150. Actually, talking of cheap, what might be cheaper is a Raspberry Pi. I know it's Linux, but you're used to Unix anyway, and you've got the monitors. So you'd have a full-blown screen, more or less. And my wife has, she doesn't have the huge icons, but she does have most of the fonts ramped up quite high, and things like Internet Explorer magnified, and that doesn't have cause a lot of problems with some websites, because they all render as though you're doing 100%, and then things are off screen, but it doesn't recognise that they're off screen, so it doesn't scroll. And Chrome's the same, so it's not Internet Explorer. And stuff like that. It's a real pain in the neck if you want big stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of keep thinking of that. Mind you, I do have a Raspberry Pi with its own screen, so I keep thinking I must sort of just fire this up, because then I could sort of sit it to one side with chat on, because looking up at it is a little bit needs clean, does this screen. And now I need to get the alcohol out, since I seem to have marked it somehow. So you can get, mind you, having said that, you know, this costs as much as a cheap tablet, so it's not an ideal thing. If you've got the screen already, nice, but not if you haven't. Mind you, that did come from Kickstarter, so it's not the current retail price of the things. Yeah, but digitally, I prefer to keep it. Well, I do sometimes print out images, but I tend to prefer to keep them digital anyway when I'm using reference pictures. That way I can always throw, because apart from when I'm doing physical art like this, but I can always throw them onto the tablet computer, and I can, you know, use Paint. That's not Adobe, it's that other company that does a painting program. Keep talking about sieves, but now you see in an illustration how sieves hold more than my memory does. But, yeah. Well, especially now that they've added the quad core to it. Yeah. It's just finding time. There's lots of stuff to do like that, and it's a kind of well, at the moment, real life means that weekends and things are extremely busy, and they're not going to get any less so for at least the next 6 months or something like that. But it's a constant. It's a constant, not so struggle, but a constant consideration every night along the lines of, do I stream, or do I do something like play with that screen, or do something else? And at the moment, streaming's winning. It may come a time when it doesn't, mainly because it's cost. I was going to say streaming, the materials, I mean, it's starting to cost me a bit too much these days. I'm getting through more art materials now than I ever did, and I know I'm only doing sort of like this, one image every 2 weeks. But yeah, Scraperboard Okay, I've got enough for another few weeks. I'll be doing Scraperboard probably concurrently, but things like the punchcraft soon adds up. It's like going out and buying a new, large canvas, isn't it, or a new set of paints. It's very nice, but it's saving up for the things. And it's things like what I'd love to play with is this kind of Intel, a bit like the Arduinos, but there's an Intel version which I'd love to play with. You can program it in .NET rather than Arduino, which makes it easier for doing certain things. And I have quite an interest in Internet of Things, so or rather smart home. But I mean real smart home. I don't mean using a smartphone to turn your lights on and off. It's just a remote control. It's on your phone, but it's a remote control. I'm more interested in the kind of smart home that's turned the lights on because it knew you were about to want them on because it was getting dark. And those sorts of things, like those little Intel stuff, for sensors, or a light and dark sensor, or humidity, or some form of presence sensor, sound detectors, these sorts of things. And I'd love to have a play with those, but it's some real cool stuff going on and cool developments like that. But it's just finding the time. I guess I could cheat and do it on a creative stream, but that seems a little bit too much off the track of of Twitch. Yeah, well, that's sort of smart home. You see loads of these things that they describe them as sort of smart light bulbs or smart door locks or things like that, and it's all have a program on your smartphone. I never carry a smartphone. I don't, especially around the house. I do when I go out, but it's kind of a phone more than anything. And when I'm in the house, I don't. So. For me to have things like a smart light bulb, it would be. Now, where did I put the phone? Oh, is it charged? Oh, okay. Well, where's the charger? Oh, now which app was it? Oh, it needs updating, does it? Okay. Now, how do I use it? And oh, my lights are on now. It's kind of like, I'm going to walk to the wall and just press the switch. It's easier. But like as you said, your friend's house, that's when it gets to be nice. You just walk in the room and the lights come on. If it needs to be, and you walk out and they go off and you don't have to worry about it. Mind you, in the Internet of Things, presence as in, is somebody in the room? And it is one of the hardest problems to solve. And it's even harder for bedrooms. Okay, that you will do for now, I think. Yeah, I was exaggerating slightly because these days I do tend to keep it plugged in, so it's always charged, and it's always in the same place. But remote control from a smartphone just doesn't. And then what do the a lot of these internet things as well, you can only pair with one smartphone. So if you're living in a house, as I did with Mrs. Aragon Art, it's okay, she'll have to come to find me, to find my phone, to get me to turn the lights on in the room that she's in. It's kind of not quite got the idea of it yet. Hasn't these manufacturers? Okay, because we've got the lighting effect, I want to have some slightly brighter lighting down this side, I think. Probably from about here, just down around. Just a little bit. Don't want to come under here because of course we've got the face which is hiding the chest and upper leg. In fact, this is actually probably a bit bright, but I'm thinking about whether to brighten the rest of it, and I don't really want to. It's so I'm just going to see how it goes. Is that the right shape? Yeah, it could be. Why is that monitor flickering? I do not like monitors that flicker. Oh, it's not the monitor, it's the OBS output window. That means it's coming from the camera. That's usually a bandwidth problem. Nothing else is using that bus that I know of. Keep an eye on it. Well, 3D, it seems like you and I have got the internet to ourselves tonight. Oh, is it doing that again? Over the past few days I've had problems where I haven't been able to load the dashboard. Yeah, again, getting sort of chat up has been quite problematical from time to time. That doesn't look quite right to me. I think I probably need to come a bit higher up, if not all the way up to the top here. Okay, quite like that leg. Do I think it needs anything more in it? Probably not. At least not at the moment. That tuft of hair looks really out of place. That still looks a bit odd. Can't really do much about that, other than maybe it might be an idea to have a little touch of ink just down that side there. Don't really want to widen the face anymore. That's better. So I'm going to have a little bit of rim lighting around here as well. Not much, but just probably enough just to have a very slight highlight. That's almost getting too bright just down there, that was close. Come out a little bit more. That's looking a bit better there. Need a little bit more shading in here because it kind of looks like it's sort of almost a hole, which is not right. That looks a bit better now. I've bind it up a bit. Doesn't look so much like a hole. I do need to sort of soften these edges off a little bit. Intention was that there were different fur colours, but this has kind of turned away from representing different fur colours, other than maybe sort of a general black and white snow leopard style. So the sharp edge colour just doesn't seem to come into it too much. So I'll just work the transition out a little bit wider. Yeah, actually some of this may change colour or shade again when we put the whiskers in, because whiskers do originate from black spots here and here, and they'll be really white because they'll be quite thick scratches, and it will tend to sort of overpower the areas around it. In fact, actually on the couple of reference pictures I've got over here, those are black whiskers, the white ones are down here, so that might not be as bad. And it still amazes me how the little tiny, you can't probably see the little tiny scratches that I'm making here, but I am making really tiny little scratches, and only it's in the order of 2 or 3 or 4 in a quite a large area, and yet the shade just extends out. I'm still kind of amazed by it. So let's sit back and contemplate the image a moment. Have a look at what I'm doing and decide if I'm overdoing. Am I actually now just fiddling with the image? It's not a perfect image. There are problems with it, but am I just going to make problems worse by keep fiddling? I am basically asking myself the question, is it done? Have I finished? Hello Chosen07, good evening and welcome. You know, I'm probably, because I'm asking the question, that probably means I actually am finished. Because I'm asking the question because my subconscious is going at me or something like that. Is it whisker time? Is it whisker time? And do I paint the eyes? Now there's an interesting question. I was thinking of doing it originally, either something like a piercing blue if I could get it, or an orange, golden orange sort of colour, but I am wondering whether to leave them. Let's do a manual zoom just so I can get the whole image in there. Were I to do this again, the face would need to be thinner. It's a little bit fat, especially on this side here. Some of that's shading, and I haven't got the shading right, because there's quite a long distance between here and here, but it's foreshortened. You're looking down the side of it, and I haven't got that representation properly, and I definitely haven't got it properly on this side, and it does make it look like this is the neck. Actually, it probably is, but the shading's not quite right for that. But I'm not going to touch shading on that side. I love that dark. I love that dark, and it would be really hard to put any form of additional shading into there without destroying that dark. I think that dark is quite powerful. I wonder if that one I should do here is about there. Yeah, better. Just a tiny little detail there, just a reflection of sort of the corner of the eye, the wet in the corner of the eye, which I've just put in there. Whisker time. It wants whiskers, but I'm scared. I'm scared to put whiskers on. And of course now I'm procrastinating. Whiskers are the last thing to go on, so if I start putting whiskers on, it's definitely finished. Well, that's not strictly true, but you then have to work around them without disturbing them. Yeah, I know. But there's knowing and there's doing. But of course, this could be the point at which the image gets ruined. Okay. Can't really put it off any longer, can I? That's interesting. I've used erasers on paint to lift, to lift airbrush paint before, but I've never thought of actually doing that. I mean, I know kneaded erasers are used quite often on pencil drawings to shift the tone, to lift the tone a little bit just by lifting a little bit of the graphite off. I've kind of been interested to, because I went out specifically and bought a couple of kneaded erasers to try doing that sort of thing, but I've never thought of anybody just literally covering a paper in pencil and then lifting it off. Tell you, I bet. Or maybe she didn't. I was going to say it would perhaps have been an interesting exercise in getting a smooth covering, but there again, I suppose you can always use what they call it, a rubbing stick. A rounded stick that you can just go over things and it smudges everything out. And I'm trying to think what they're called. Oh dear, but blender, a blending stick, a block of graphite. Oh, okay. Not the sort of thing that Pocky Ranger uses then for his glass blowing. That's graphite, I think, isn't it? That he uses graphite blocks because they don't burn. Well, have I procrastinated long enough? I probably have. Now there should be quite a lot of whiskers. I'm probably not going to do a lot of whiskers. Do I want... Bother. The bother was because it skipped. I wasn't pressing consistently enough and it skipped and when you then got to go back and join up two ends of lines, that's can be quite a challenge. I'm done. Now they don't show up as much as they do here. I'm saying done, but then I'm about to go back and fiddle. Biscuits are quite thick, so I'm just thickening these hairs a little bit, especially down at the root. And I'm seeing double with it. Yeah, possibly and the lighting angle free. Okay. That's better. I reckon that's done. I reckon that that is done. Otherwise I'm going to be fiddling. We've got the whiskers on. Move the light a little bit further away. Thanks 3D. Yeah, the whiskers are a little bit more prominent here in real life than they're being shown on the monitor. I think that's down to the pixels more than anything else, because I can see fringing a little bit as I just tilt this very slightly. So anti-aliasing is what you'd need at this point, but we're not broadcasting anti-aliasing and you're not using it at your end. But there we go. Well, scratching the signature would be easy. The only thing is I haven't worked out yet what I want to use as a signature, to be honest, 3D bloke. I could use the ZA, Zaragoza, or I could use my real name. And I don't know, which is why none of them are signed yet. It's an interesting question. If anybody was to buy it, I guess I'd give them the option of of what it got signed with. Although I'm not actually sure whether or not it would be good signing it even, because of course you put a great big white scratch down the bottom, left or right, right usually, isn't it? But which sort of might be detrimental to the picture. I'd probably have to sign it on the back, or work out some way of doing it. Actually, I suppose what I could do is scratch it and then go over it in black ink. Yeah. Oh, it's certainly on a certificate of authority you'd have to do that. Yeah, sort of like a ZA on the front, in possibly make it scratch it and then coat it in ink so that it's visible but it's black. So what I'm going to do now is work out a ZA sort of shape for the front. Yeah, I was kind of thinking of stylizing the ZA a little bit into sort of, the Z with the A, the left bar of the A being the Z, and then a strike through the middle, but possibly doing in a script style a little bit, but I don't know, I'll have to have a play about. I kind of could do with a ZA icon logo anyway, so I shall have to have a play with that at some point. Okay, fiddling. Yeah, I'm fiddling, yeah. Yeah. Now there's all sorts of variations. I could do the ZA, or I could do Z, the offset as a possibility. Z, scroll back up with the A down. I don't know. I'll have to. Or if anybody comes up with any ideas, they're welcome to submit them. But I could do with just literally spending half an hour or so just drawing these things, because I've then got to be able to reproduce it as well as turning it into a logo. I've got to be able to reproduce the thing. Dear. Anyway, well, it's 22, almost 9:45. There's almost, well, there is no point in starting anything. Again, I'm fiddling. I'm going to fiddle again. I'll do. I will. I know I'm going to see things for ages, but I've just got to resist the temptation to actually pick up the scraper and do anything with it. I've taken the gloves off. That's almost a guarantee that I can't do anything else because I get finger marks on it. Not that it still needs a polish up, does this? Because it does have some marks on it now, but little tiny marks, which are essentially just dust marks, but they needs a bit of a polish, but it'll have to be done again before it gets sprayed. I'm going to have to buy some spray, varnish. I'm trying to think what it is, but I did notice that Createx sold some that looked quite good, so I'm going to have to spend money. Oh God, spend money and buy some, and then spray these things. Spray them gloss, then spray them matte over the top. Oh, I'm not. Well, I've got two things I could do, given that it's the end of the stream. And for 20 minutes, I could do some jewellery. I could pull out the jewellery box, or I could pull out the other artworks that have been done, but I think what I'm just going to do is say, you know what, I'm going to have an early stream night for once, and it's not much earlier than normal, so but it is kind of, do I really want to fill in for 20 minutes? Or 15 minutes, and I'm now just looking at the logo at the top right of my screen. I suppose what I could always do is fire up a screen capture on Paint and start drawing for 15 minutes, but nah. That ZA in the top right hand corner there, you could almost take that tail as being that bit of the A that's there, and sort of bring the A down like that, form it as well, and this then forms the crossbar of the A as well, elongated. It kind of makes it more a taller logo then than a wide one, but and since most of the times where you want to use a logo, you tend to want a sort of a squarish one, so okay, you're going to be doing some Call of Duty, was it, you went on to, or something like that afterwards? Well, if there's anybody watching, guys, I am going to be finishing early. 3D Block there will be picking up in about 10 minutes time. Normally we cross over. I tend to wait until 3 starts streaming and then I'll stop so that you can go from one to the other, because when he's doing art, he's a great artist. When he's not doing art, he's still a great artist, but you don't know it. So you have to look at his game artistry of how to play games, which he's quite good at as well, and it's quite good fun watching him. And I must say there is a bit of a difference between jump scares when you're playing a game and jump scares when you're watching a game, because I didn't jump. Not for the past couple of streams. But I know Free was surprised in a couple of places, shall we say. I'm going to remind everybody that's watching and hasn't taken a look at the shop. If you're interested in jewellery, that is chainmail jewellery specifically at the moment, but I may be adding to that in the next week or so, because I'm going to try out a couple of new crafts for making jewellery. So keep an eye on the stream. In fact, it would be really nice if one of them arrived in the post tomorrow, then I'd be able to do it tomorrow night. Oh, the 500 watt amp does make a bit of a difference, and I know when you're playing it, the creepy music all builds to that point, because you're then expecting it, which makes you jump more, and it's a weird thing. But if you are interested in jewellery, I recommend, well, I would do, wouldn't it? It's my shop. Recommend you check it out. Pass it on to family and friends if anybody's interested in buying stuff. The proceeds of that will help fund the stream. If you're watching me though and aren't following, then of course I encourage you to do that as well. It all helps, and you might get to see more big cats in artistry form. You'll see the small cats occasionally as they pop up on stream. If you just like a notification there, you're welcome of course to follow me on Twitter, another form of following, at Zaragonart. It will be on the end plate in a moment, but if you come back later, it's also at the bottom of the screen, screen below the window, further down. If you'd just like to try and catch me tomorrow night, somewhere around 8 PM UK, 1900 hours UTC, that's also GMT if you don't know the difference, of about an hour and 3/4 earlier than now. LDLH, good afternoon, good evening. You've just seen the end of the Leopard, or you are seeing the end of the Leopard. Unfortunately, I'm closing early tonight since we've finished. I don't really want to start anything else, and I've filled for 10 minutes, but I can't keep going for, well, I could keep going for another 10 minutes, but you guys would get bored. 3D Bloke will be streaming in again in about 10 minutes time. I don't know what he's going to be doing this evening, but I recommend you check him out. Always fun to watch. Thank you guys, hope to see you in the studio tomorrow. Have a good evening, and bye bye.